Let's get started. So welcome to Café Bluebeam, everyone. Café Bluebeam is a 6-part mini-series on digital plan review. Bluebeam is a software designed to streamline your digital workflow, allowing you to publish, markup, and share PDF documents. And we want clients to take a quick break from work with a cup of coffee and learn about Bluebeam during each session. My name is Jerica, and I'm the Industry Account Manager at SolidCAD, located in BC, and I handle software and training requests for Bluebeam. So for our sessions, we've invited Derek Ng, a coffee expert, to join us by sharing information on how to roast coffee at the beginning of each session. The coffee portion will be around 5 to 6 minutes, and then our technical consultant will dive into Bluebeam afterwards. So the 6-part series are 30 minutes each on Wednesday until June 30th. Next week, the session is Revu for new clients on June 16th. But for those who are currently using Bluebeam, it is worth to join as well. It will be going over Bluebeam versus Adobe. Also, it will go over the 3 flavors of Revu. So if you're thinking of potentially upgrading to the CAD version or Extreme version or open licensing, please join us next week. Registration is still open for all the upcoming sessions. And we will be giving away coffee beans to 2 lucky attendees per session. So we'll contact you through an email if you've won. So go let everyone, and let's get the session started. Today is about tool chests. So if you have any questions related to Bluebeam, please type it in the chat box and we'll try our best to answer them. If we didn't get to you, we will send you a follow-up email. So let's get started with Derek.
Hi, welcome back to Café Bluebeam. We're halfway through our video series now, and it's going to be the last copy we're going to be showcasing from Bows and Arrows. This time though, it is an espresso roast, different than the filter roast that we've been showing, and I thought it'd be kind of nice to use espresso roast, but not in an espresso application. This particular coffee is from Felipe Merez Farms, based in the Chirinos region of Peru. It is comprised of 2 varietals, a Couture and a Pache, grown at an elevation of 1,800 meters. The device we're going to be using today is the French press. So, very common device found in a lot of homes. This one just is a little different, probably based on the size and then the construction. This one happens to be made of metal. It is called an Espro. It's a kind of French press, and I like these just because of the metal construction. It helps retain the heat, and then the filter system is a double filter, so I just quite like the way the coffee turns out using this. So, like we did previously, we're going to warm up our device. And I thought it would be nice to show the French press because it's a little more approachable, and it's not going to come out with you as something particularly daunting. It's quite easy. We just pour water, let it steep, and we wait, and then we serve. We're going to set this aside while it's warming, and we're going to talk about grind size. So this time it's going to be definitely a lot coarser, higher on the end of medium. I would say like a medium coarse. We definitely don't want large boulders, but definitely still quite coarse. So once our device is warm, I'm going to turn on my scale. So I have 40 grams of coffee here, so this is going to be a slightly larger yield, but this is strictly based on the device size I have. We spoke a lot about ratio so far, and I'd like to take a moment to discuss how this can affect your recipe. So in this case, let's say I want to yield 600 grams of coffee. So we want to divide by the ratio we're brewing by. This one is 15 to 1. So I would take 600, which is my final yield, and we would divide it by 15. And then that would give me the number 40, letting me know how much coffee I need to prepare. All right, I'm going to place my scale here. I'm going to start it and start the timer. It's going to be quite a large bloom because I have a bit more coffee than normal this time. We're going to give it a stir. I'm going to wait for it to bloom just a little moment. And finish the final pour now to the total weight, in this case 600. So this recipe will take a little longer than the traditional, which is about 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes. And we're going to let it steep to a total of 6.5 minutes. We can actually go to an upwards of 8 minutes. This method and or recipe is adapted from a former world barista champion. And it's just a different approach on how we can brew coffee from a French press. Actually yields quite a lot more mellow of a cup. We're going to remove this from the scale. And just by observing the time, we're going to let this steep for a total of 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And we'll put the lid on. And then we wait. I'll check back with you in 6.5 minutes. Six and a half minutes is up. I'm going to turn off my scale. And what makes this technique different than the traditional AeroPress, other than the prolonged time, is actually we're not going to press this. We're going to rely on the filter. And what's happened during that time is that the grounds, where if we traditionally pressed, it would mix all that, and potentially some of the sediments that have been settled on the bottom will get swished around and then get reincorporated into the liquid that we're going to be drinking. So by not pressing, we're going to minimize the effect of bringing up the sediments. So instead of pressing, I'm just going to opt to pour. You're going to notice that the coffee produced by this French press is going to be a lot more clear than what we traditionally expect out of French press. It's going to actually produce a lot more mellow of a cup, cleaner on the mouthfeel, so less of that silty flavor in our mouth. And we're going to give this a taste. So the tasting notes on this are Concord grape, fruit leather, and cream. The first tasting note I get is kind of like the sweetness that I do find familiar with grapes. When I smell it, it does have a bit of a tacky kind of honey or sugar smell, similar to molasses. And I think that could be why they noted fruit leather. As I taste this, it's very alike to, I want to say, fruit roll-ups or even fruit by the foot. And as I continue to drink, I can get notes of cherry and cacao nibs even. So we got a nice underlying chocolatey note to this. And cream being the last tasting note, I can see where they get this because the mouthfeel definitely is a little richer. It coats the tongue. Not unpleasant, but similar to how it feels like after when you drink something dairy-based. It has a similar mouthfeel where the oils linger a little bit on your tongue and palate. Okay, thanks for watching, and we're going to catch you on the next one.
Welcome to Café Bluebeam, a series of educational webinars that will help you get the most out of your Bluebeam Revu software. Today, we're going to look at the tool chest. My name's Colin Gadet, and I'll be your speaker. And we're going to look at a number of things surrounding the tool chest, from managing your tool sets to the format painter, as well as creating custom tools from snapshots, making some of those markups smarter, custom editable stamps, and finally sharing all of that stuff with our colleagues. To start things off, let's take a look at some of the tool sets inside of our tool chest, and more specifically, learning how to manage and configure these to get the most out of our Bluebeam Revu software. So in this section, let's take a look at how to create tool sets, add tools to them, toggle their displays, and some of the key differences between adding tools in drawing mode versus adding tools in properties mode. Let's jump over to Bluebeam Revu and take a look. Within the software, we need to gain access to the tool chest. So over on the left-hand side, we can see this toolbox icon. When we select it, it opens up the tool chest, and we can see a number of different tool sets that are already maximized in the tool chest. Now, this isn't a complete list. For a complete all-encompassing list of the tool sets that are in our tool chest, if we come to the top and click on Tool Chest, it gives us a drop-down with all of the tool sets configured in our version of Revu. If I like design symbols, I can click this and toggle the check on, and it displays down here in my tool chest. So we have control that way, but for a little bit more granular control, let's go to the Manage Toolsets. It opens up a dialog box where we're able to do a little bit more with reconfiguring the order, highlighting and maybe deleting some of these tool sets, or as we get a little bit more comfortable with Bluebeam Revu, our company may decide to implement standardized tool sets that we can import into our version of the software. Now for starters, let's take a look at just creating our own tool set. So we'll go to the bottom right corner and click Add. And for this example, let's look at creating a peer review notes toolset. I give it a name, I choose whether I want it to display or not, and when I click OK, it asks me where I would like to save this toolset. I'm going to keep the name, and I'm going to keep the default saving path for the Bluebeam Revu software. When I click OK, it adds it to my list, and it displays it automatically down here in my tool chest. Let's click OK. Now at this point, I have my peer review notes, but I don't have any markups inside of that tool set. I don't have any tools. Let's look at a couple different ways to add them. I've got one in my drawing already, this revision cloud. So I could go up here, I could highlight the revision cloud, and I can simply right click, scroll down to Add to Tool Chest, and add to the tool set that I'd like. Just like that, it adds it down here to my peer review notes. Now, another way to go about doing this is I could come up to the engineering review. I could see this icon right here. I could click and drag. And that also places it down in my peer review notes. It also activates it. So let's take a look at what this one looks like. Well, it's nearly the exact same. But when I clicked it, I got to Window and decide the size of my revision cloud. Now when I hover over here to the contractor box and click, I don't get to pick the size. This is the crucial difference between drawing mode and properties mode. The blue revision cloud was in properties mode. The yellow was in drawing mode. If I right click on that tool, I can come down to the second from the last and I can see properties mode. Let's toggle it. Notice it changes the icon in the tool set. And now when I go to use that, I can choose the size of my revision cloud. In my opinion, most of the time we're going to want properties mode. But if I take a revision that I like on my PDF, right click and add it to the tool chest, it automatically adds that as drawing mode. So just make sure that we come back and change that to properties mode. Now that we have a couple tools in the peer review tool set, let's work to customize these tools to have a unique visual appearance for this tool set. When I select one of the revision clouds, I get some formatting options up at the top. Let's change some of these. So we'll adjust the fill color and the outline color to red. Maybe we'll adjust the thickness of the outline, so it's nice and bold. But now once I have this, notice it does not update in the peer review notes. We've edited this. Now we can right click and add it to the peer review notes. This is the way to update the tools in the peer review notes toolset. Then I can come in and delete the rest of them from the list. And remember, this is in drawing mode, so we'll right click on this tool and adjust it to properties mode. Now that I have a nicely formatted revision cloud tool sitting in my peer review notes toolset, I can select it at any time and start to make additional revision clouds in my PDF. If I needed other revision clouds to take that same formatting, instead of selecting them and individually going up and picking the color, the line weights, and things like that, we've got a handy tool called the Format Painter that will do this automatically for us. Simply select one of the revision clouds that we like, right-click, and we've got access to the Format Painter. When you hover over another similar type of markup, it's going to give you a paintbrush. When we click that paintbrush, it automatically applies the formatting options that were set to these additional markups. Another way to access this might be through our toolset. Maybe if I go back up to the contractor review, I can right-click on the revision cloud here, and I have options for paint format. I can select this once again, and in a similar fashion, I'll put these back to the yellow revision clouds that they were. We can quickly add other types of markups to the peer review notes toolset using this Format Painter. If I take a Cloud Plus from the contractor review, pan down here, and select an area and note we can use that Format Painter to change the format of some of this Cloud Plus. Right-click into the Format Painter and hover over the Cloud Plus. When I select it, notice it only updates the formatting pieces of this Cloud Plus that were similar inside of the revision cloud. There's other portions of this Cloud Plus that we didn't have access to before, like the leader, the text, and the background masking for that text. So this can get us halfway there to adding additional tools to our toolset. And then once we're happy with it, simply right-click, add to Tool Chest, and pick that Peer Review Notes toolset. And remember, it shows up as drawing mode. So we need to go back and set this to Properties mode. Next, let's look at creating some more unique tools to add to our tool sets, using snapshots to grab specific items inside of our PDFs and add them to our tool chest. Flipping over into Bluebeam, we have a residential development that needs some traffic signage. So let's create a specific tool set to contain all of those traffic signs. We'll click Add. And call it Traffic Markups. We'll save this toolset in the Bluebeam Revu default save path and add it to our tool chest. Notice that there aren't any icons in here yet, so we need to start adding some signage. I've also saved the Ministry of Transport's Driver Handbook, where we can see a number of the different signs that may be required for this job. We can create a snapshot from this PDF from Edit, Snapshot, and selecting the portion of the PDF that we need to use. Once we've created the snapshot, a simple Control-V places this in the drawing. We can then right-click, add to Tool Chest, and add this to our traffic markups as a stop sign. Let's come down here and grab one more. Edit, Snapshot, and we'll take this pedestrian crosswalk this time. Control-V to place this in the drawing so that I can select it and add it to the tool chest. Now, moving back into our subdivision drawing, we can jump in here, zoom in, and click and place these at the various areas where we need traffic signage. This markup looks pretty good visually, but there's even more we can do to it as we continue to build out a complete toolset. Just above the toolbox icon, we have these two sheets of paper, layers, and much like the layers that were used to create this underlying PDF, we can add new layers in the Bluebeam software. We can call this traffic markups, and we can apply that layer to this markup by selecting it, right-click, and down on layers, selecting the traffic markups layer. This markup has a lot more to it than just the visuals. If we go to the gear right here, under properties, we can adjust a little bit more of this, adding a subject to it. So, stop sign. We can add comments. And we can adjust some of the colors and things like that. This becomes a lot more useful as we start to build out the subject, the comments, and the layers for this markup. We can then see all of those details in our markups list. As we open it up, we've got a number of contractor markups, a number of engineering markups, and now we've got a number of snapshots. That being said, this one is a stop sign. So it gives us a lot more details for the stop sign and proposed under the comments section than the previous markup that we picked up here, which is simply just a snapshot with no comments and just an author. Now that this markup is working a little bit smarter for us, let's go back to our tool chest and replace the one that's in this tool chest. We'll delete it. We'll select the one that we've adjusted and add this to our traffic markups toolset. Let's make sure that we replace our other stop sign with the smarter stop sign tool that we've got. I'll copy and paste and move this one into place. Now we've identified that these stop signs are proposed, but maybe we have one that's existing that needs to show up on these drawings. Let's paste this in again, and in this stop sign, we can adjust maybe some of the colors. If I right-click, I can scroll down and change colors. Maybe we gray this one back, and we can pick the colors and then process the image, and click OK. This is now grayed back, and then we just need to go to the properties and update the comment to say existing. Once we've done that, back to the tool chest, let's add this one to our traffic markups toolset. Grab it, right-click, and add to traffic markups, and it shows up as a slightly different snapshot. We can scroll out. We can move this down here. And the best part about all of these being on a layer is just like in that CAD design software, we can hide all of these temporarily if the layer is not visible. So hopefully we can see that adding a little bit of extra time and adding a little bit of extra data to our markups is going to help us in the long run to identify things as we're going down and creating different markups on our PDFs. Up until this point today, we've talked about everything tool chest, from creating and manipulating our tool sets to creating new tools and adding them to those tool sets, creating tools from snapshots and giving them a little bit more information with subjects, layers, and comments. But at this point, I'd like to shift gears and talk about stamps. Stamps are another tool outside of the tool chest, but very useful nonetheless within Bluebeam software. We're able to replace the tedious process of printing, rubber stamping, and scanning a drawing that we may have had to do in the past in our firms. And now we can simply do all of that digitally while still protecting the integrity of that stamp. At this point, I'll flip over to Bluebeam and let's take a look. Instead of looking at the tool chest, stamps are actually found in the Tools dropdown under Stamps. There are a number of them that come pre-configured with Bluebeam. And if I were to just take Seal, for example, I can come in here, pick an area, and this seal of approval shows up. Notice it even shows up with the date. These are some of the interesting things that we can do with stamps. Now, if I go back into Stamps and highlight over the seal, this is the recently used stamp. We can see that there's a little pencil on the side there. When we click on that pencil, it opens up an entirely new PDF because that's what a stamp is. It's its own PDF. And we can edit this, but this replaces the need to print and rubber stamp a drawing and then scan it back in because we can do all of this digitally. I can open up my tool chest and add my name in here using a text box. I can format this, make it a little bit larger, center it. Probably don't need a fill in here. And when I'm done with that, I can close that and save the seal. Now that's the new seal. Every time I go and drop this in, this is my personal seal. So I'll go Tools, Stamp, and Seal. And when I add this in, it's already got my name in there. And we could go one step further under Tools, a couple down, we've got Sign, and we can actually sign the document. Now, this is a little bit different than just a simple sketched in signature. I actually have to log in. And then I'm able to pick the reason for the signature. I've reviewed the drawing. I can pick my location. Cambridge, Ontario, and click OK. When it does this, this digital signature actually forces me to save an entirely new PDF. And if someone were to go and mark that PDF up, it actually invalidates the signature. Click Save, and I've got this digital signature right here inside my stamp. It removes the need to scan in a scribble of your name or your scribble of your signature and paste it in here, but we could also do that as well inside of a stamp. It's very easy to go and edit one of these or create your own. If I go Create Stamp, the subject is what it's actually going to show up in that list. So this might be Submit for Review. We can specify the size and all of these other things that can kind of help us get started. So we can just have text for starters, text with a border, text date with a border. When I click OK, it automatically creates this for me. Maybe I don't need the date and the time, so I'll just delete that and leave just the date. Well, I can close this. It prompts me to save. And then that's going to show up inside my stamps in alphabetical order. So I can come up here, drop that in, submit for review with today's date. The last piece of this puzzle is sharing these stamps or these tool sets with other people in your organization. Because like I said, at this point, this is my own stamp. And it actually sits, if I take a look under Stamps, I can change the stamp folder, but right now it is buried quite deeply in my program data, in my personal computer. If I wanted to share one of these stamps, I would have to go in, find the Submit for Review PDF, and put that in a shared folder. on our network drive or somewhere where the rest of my organization can find it. The same thing goes with Tool Chest and some of the tool sets. Going in here and manage tool sets, we have the option to import other tool sets. When I do that, it opens this up and looks for other tool sets that I can pick. Because remember, if I go and add one of these, it saves again deep within my program data, or my app data this time. So we just need to make sure that if we're sharing these, we take the BTX file for our tool sets or the PDF file for our stamps and put them on a network drive so we can share them to the rest of our organization.
So yeah, thanks to Colin for diving into the tool chest inside Bluebeam. So I hope all the attendees learn a new method to roast coffees and also take away some valuable information from Bluebeam. And thanks to everyone for attending. We will be sending out a thank you email